Want to change camera scenes like a pro? Need to do something hands-free? In today's video, we will show you how you can make your very own foot pedal that can do almost anything your hands can. As always, don't forget to click that like button and tap the bell to be notified of any new skills we show here on Proficient Skills. Let's get started. The brains of this project is this 5-volt Adafruit board. You can use a 3-volt board and you're perfectly fine. In fact, you can use any board you'd want as long as it has some input pins and a micro USB port. Next up is this very simple 3-pin switch. They come in all sorts of configurations, and I recommend using this one with a nifty lever arm. If you don't have a lever arm, make sure to pick up some springs to finish out this build. I got this one from Amazon in a pack of 12 for about $7, which comes out to a little over $1 per piece. Super affordable. Now here I have this really cool 3D printed case. The plans are provided by Adafruit, and I'll include it in the description below. This will hold together all of our parts while also being the physical object that we step on to activate our scene switches. A note about loading programs onto your board. This one has a physical reset button on the board that lets me load without having to unplug and plug back in my cable. Make sure you consult your board's documentation to figure out how to load programming specifically on your board. It's time to get into the actual coding for this program. Remember, I'm using Arduino here, so if you're using a different language, you might have to change some things in this code to get it to work for you. For a quick rundown, here's what we have. Here, we define our input pin. Here is our check. And here is where we specify what key we want to press. In this case, we press Shift A. Since I'm using Arduino programming for an Adafruit board, I want to make sure to include the correct keystroke libraries specific to Adafruit. Depending on what board you use, you might have different libraries to import. All right, here we have a quick test. And success. Sweet. When we wire these together, we want to make sure to have our common pin, this one down here, attached to ground on our board, and the NO, or normally open lead, to whichever pin we set earlier. In our case, it was 0. All right, another little test just before we permanently attach anything. Wire it up. It's always a good idea to keep testing, as you don't want to wire it up and find out it doesn't work. All right, press the switch. Oh, make sure I'm actually in Notepad here. There we go. And voila. When I press down on the lever, we see a capital A up here. Cool. Next up, I'm just gonna quickly be pre-tinning our wires. If you've never soldered before or not sure what some of this stuff is, be sure to check out our Beginner's Ultimate Guide to Soldering. In this video, we go over everything you need to know to progress from 0 to hero in the world of soldering. Remember, I'll link a parts list in the description below so you can find everything you need for this project over at Amazon. With that, we attach our black wire to input 0. And now our red wire to ground. All right. Let's get our switch set up here. I am applying some soldering paste just to make it easier to actually join the wire to this plate. You can do it without it, but this makes it so much easier. Let's see, black wire to normally open. and red to common. Great, let's test this out. Once again, make sure we're actually in Notepad. And it works. Now comes the assembly, always the most fun part of any build. For this bracket, I'll be using some N2 screws, and of course, they'll be included in the description below. With some more M2 screws, we want to tap our mounting holes on the board. That is, we want to screw them in just a little bit, back it out, and repeat that process until we go all the way into the board. This will reduce the strain. Now we mount it to our casing. There we go. Next is the micro switch, and here's where I made a critical mistake. No matter what orientation I tried, I had made my black wire too short so that the switch wouldn't fit onto the mounting plate. To fix it, I simply soldered another wire in between the board and the micro switch. It's a super easy fix, and if you want to see that blunder, it's available over on our Patreon. Alright, with it all fixed up, I'll be using 2 standard screws to secure our switch. I think I got these off an old picture framing kit. If your micro switch doesn't have a lever arm, you can insert a spring into the round opening on the base of the foot pedal. This will reset our foot pedal when we press down on it. Tuck in some wires. Snap the top cover on. Plug it in. Alright, now here comes the test. And it works. Here, it's used to show different camera angles for a stream setup. But remember, this can be used for almost anything, and it's pretty cheap to make. With the parts list coming just under $20, you can make multiple copies of these. The most expensive part is the 3D printing, because I had it outsourced. But if you have your own printer setup, it's even cheaper. And there you have it. A simple, quick, and cheap foot pedal that you can use for almost anything you do. I hope you enjoyed this video, and don't forget to like and subscribe so you can continue watching new skills here on Proficient Skills.